right, looks like we have a couple people joining. I'll give just a minute or two before we get started. All right, looks like two is all we've got today. I'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, guys. My name is Ethan Price. I've been on the support team for just under 3 years with Decisions. I think I'm coming up on my 3-year mark in February, I believe, if my memory serves me right. We do have a couple pre-submitted questions that I can go over first. Before we get into that, just in case you missed it, V6 has officially been deprecated. So if you haven't gotten the upgrade to version 8, please feel free to reach out to your customer success manager. And if you do need more information, you can reach out and we can get you in contact with who you need to get in contact with, so we can get you upgraded to ensure that you have the best version of Decisions that you can have. And our next product roadmap is October 5th, which is tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern, so an hour before the Lunch and Learn. Every other Thursday, the product team, typically Eric, will host just kind of a webinar to go over some of the upcoming features of Decisions and then allow you guys, the customers, to influence and talk about things that you would like to see in the product. So first question that I had was, in an assignment that's assigned to many persons, if the form is opened by one person, other people should see a customized lease message when they try to open the same assignment. So if you aren't quite sure what that is, when you open an assignment and when an assignment is assigned to a particular user or a group of users, when a user opens the assignment, it will enter a leased state where that particular account holds a lease over the assignment. And so if another user attempts to open that form, they'll get a message saying, hey, this assignment's already being worked by somebody else. And this is, of course, to prevent multiple assignments from being submitted, and to ensure that one person can only submit that at a time. So this question is mainly asking, can we customize that lease message, that error message that you say, this assignment is currently being leased by another user? Unfortunately, that is not possible to change at the moment. We have had that question asked quite a few times in the past, and we did at one point have a feature request in for it that I think got closed out just because it was pretty old. But I have seen that asked more frequently as of late, and so my expectation after this is, after this call, I'm going to submit a feature request for that, so we can kind of get that back under the dev's eyes so we can look. And it looks like I've got a hand in the chat. And it's from Eamon. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Hi, Ethan. Thanks, and yes, you're pronouncing it correctly. I'm the one who submitted this question. So what you described, it's not exactly what happens here. So currently, when one admin opens the assignment and like the form is actually open, another admin would see the assignment in their inbox. They cannot open it, like the review button is not there when another admin has the form open. They don't want that. They want the review button to be there, but when another admin clicks on that review button, they would get the lease message. Right now, the lease message only appears when you click on the link in the email that you get when you're assigned. So you try to click the link to open the assignment, you get the lease message. but this is the only place where you see the lease message. So I'm not sure how to make it the way you described it. Maybe I'm missing something, but the only place where I could see this was in security settings, under security, the assignment settings. Also, this does it. I guess it's system wide. I'm not sure, but they want it for this assignment. They didn't mention that they want it for all the assignments.
Yeah, so anything that would be modified under like the main studio settings, yeah, that would affect every assignment globally.
Okay.
So I guess the question you're asking is, are you expecting that both administrators can open the assignment? Like they'll both have access to review it?
It's a little bit tricky. They will see the assignment in their inbox, and they can click review to try to open it, and then they should see the lease message. Right now, this is not the case. The case right now is they can't see the review button. They can't try to open it. This helps to let them know that this form is currently opened by someone else, and it gives them the account email address of that person who is opening the form, who is working on the form right now. This is the benefit of the lease message, but after I did, like I configured these settings under security, and the other admins, they don't see a lease message and they can't click the review button because it's not there when another admin is on the form.
Okay. Let's see. Let me pull up a
Or
tab.
maybe I configured it wrong. I don't know, but
I will see if I can set a quick test up and we can look at that. So if I create just a simple flow, we'll just throw a form on here and we'll assign it. So I could create form. Okay, so this is just a simple form. It just has a done button on it. So all we should need to do, so let's assignment to admin. And then I also have an account on here that's my actual email. We'll do test test. Okay, so it's going to assignment to both admin and my other account. Everything else looks good. If we run this, we should see in my inbox. We should have 12 p.m. Okay. So it looks like I'm already not getting. Oh, of course, duh, because it's open in my debug tab. Okay, so if I close this out, let's just run this again. That's going to be assigned. We should get another one. Okay, so we have that option here. We have the option to complete here. So I've got an incognito tab open as well. So I'm currently on admin for this one. So incognito window is currently logged into my other account. Same permissions. We also have that option here. So if I decide to open this, I've now got this assignment leased, right? So now, are you not seeing this option here, this break lease?
I didn't try to right click on it, but when I left click on it, usually in the inbox, I left click on the assignment, and then a page appears with a review button. So I click on the review button.
Okay.
What happens if you left click on that?
I just tried left clicking. It doesn't look like I'm getting anything for it. Looks like I'm only getting right click options.
Oh, that is okay. I'm gonna try to right click because I have an assignment that I was testing. So I'm gonna open it in this account I'm impersonating, and then in the other window, I'm gonna go ahead and try to right click on it. Open box. Okay, the right click here, it says no actions. It's just one small dialog that says no action. I don't get the same dialog that you get when you right click.
Okay, interesting. And I wonder if that may have something to do with the fact that, differing permissions. Is the user that you're using an administrator?
It's a user that I don't think it's an administrator.
Okay.
It's one user that is authorized to review this kind of form, but it's not a decisions admin.
Okay. So I wonder, yeah, like a lot of these are more than likely coming because the user that I'm also using is an administrator. So I wonder too.
I think in our case, the client, the people who are gonna review these forms are not gonna be admins. It's possible that they're not gonna be admins.
So let's try that again. Let's close this, reload. I'll go to the portal too. Okay, so we have these options here. And if I then decide, jump to my inbox, what is our most recent? I lease it from here. Try and keep track of all my tabs here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we still got a couple. So it may be something that we could probably branch off into a support ticket too, just to look at the specific permissions that you have and just see
Mhm.
what we're expecting. I know that we can't really change what's shown in terms of like the messages as of now, and that's where I was getting at when I said that this could be a feature request.
Yeah.
But in terms of the options that you're seeing, I think it might be better to just look at that more in depth. And we can have somebody actually take a ticket for that. So I'm happy to submit a support ticket. That's one of the benefits of me being here and hosting the Lunch and Learn is I
Yeah.
can just submit one rather than having you submit. But if you'd prefer to submit one, I'd be happy to have somebody take a look
Um,
at that.
well, if you can do that for me, that would be really helpful because you probably have more knowledge about that and what's the issue here.
Sure.
If you can submit a support ticket, will you copy me?
Yeah, it'll add you as an assignee, so I can grab your email
Okay.
after this, and so I'll make sure that you're tagged on there, and then you should be able to log into our support portal, but then you'll also receive an email for every communication that we have.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark that down here.
Um, I don't want to in this meeting. I just have one quick question related to
Sure.
the same. When you go to setting in the studio, when you go to settings, the assignment set security, you see two types of assignment leads. I was wondering what's between them. It's kind of confusing. So settings, assignment settings here, number 6.
Okay. And are you asking the difference between these two?
Yeah, what is the initial lease time and the actual lease time?
That's a good question, honestly. I haven't actually looked into that. Let me see.
It's written in the documentation, but it's not very helpful.
Yeah, let me see if somebody's asked that before. Initial lease time.
As I said, I don't want to be hijacking the meeting. Probably someone else wants to ask another question. So if there is no answer ready for that particular question right now, it's fine.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of time. It looks like, okay, so our docs say initial lease time, the time that the lease on the assigned form session is good for after the user opens it. And then the action lease time is the amount of time before another user can use the context right-click action, the assignment. That's interesting. Okay, so what happens if action lease time is shorter than initial lease time? And here, I'll throw this up here just so I'm not reading in the dark.
Yeah, I read this and I still couldn't understand it 100%.
Okay, so I think I'm understanding this. I may have to just play around with it to see, but it's looking like, okay, so initial lease time, the time that the lease on the assigned form is good for after the user opens it. So I would assume this means how long the lease actually lasts when a user opens that particular form.
And that's pretty straightforward. But the other one, the action lease time.
This, it looks like it's referring to the amount of time before another user can use the context right-click action, the assignment. So I wonder if that's having to do with what you're seeing, where you're having no actions whatsoever. So what is mine
Uh-huh.
set to? It looks like we may have, this may directly change
The right
if
click
users have the
action
option to
list.
even, yeah, like it may block all actions altogether. So that's definitely something to test. And let's,
And this could be why when I just right clicked now, it didn't show any actions. This could
yeah,
be it.
and that's in theory, but it looks like, so action, initial lease time and action lease time, this is set to 5 minutes. So I would think that I wouldn't have gotten actions for it just because this is set to 5 minutes. And if that's still leased, yeah, that's definitely something to check out. And we can look at that as well on the support ticket because I am curious about that. I would expect that, yeah, if action lease time is shorter than initial lease time, then you would expect other assigned users would be able to open and act on the assignment despite the lease not expiring.
Yeah,
So
so
that
it
would mean if
shouldn't
it's,
it shouldn't be
yeah, if
longer.
it was longer, then I would think just based on the docs that we wouldn't have those actions at all. But that's definitely something that we can look into.
Okay, yeah, if you can include that in the support ticket as well, because it's something I will configure when I'm doing this.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
would be great. Thank you very much.
For sure. Yeah, happy to help. Down action lease time. What my chat here. Okay, next question was, is it possible to combine two data sources in one report so that the information contained within the report is displayed from both data sources under the same column names? Yes, it is. There's a couple different ways that we can do that. Let me, one of the easiest ways would just be to populate it via a flow. Reports can have a flow source their data rather than pulling directly from, say, like a SQL table or something. So that's the way that I'm most comfortable doing it, just because that's the way I've done it the very few times I actually get to build something in the past. Unfortunately, a lot of my experience on support is troubleshooting issues, and I don't really get to build as much as I'd like to. But let's see. So we could create something, say something, and I do apologize if there's any background noise. My cat is currently destroying something, so. All right, so we'll do an accounts report flow sourced, something like this. And I believe I may need to create the flow first. Might do this out of order a bit. So let's do fetch accounts flow. Do integration, internal services. We're going to do a get all for these accounts. Okay, so we have get all, and that's why I opened the properties and then I completely forgot what I was doing. Let's do, should be looking for report data source flow, which is right there. So this is going to set this flow behavior type to, it's expecting to be sourcing a report now. And so once we open that report up, once I finish the logic here, I wonder too if I can set up something. I'm going to open a new tab for just a second. I should have another database that I can connect to, and I just want to make sure that I have everything set up there and I'm pulling the right data. Let's do that. Bear with me for just a second. I wish I had had this table set up prior, but essentially what I'm doing is I have another database set up. And so my goal is I'm going to fetch the accounts from that database as well, and then we're going to combine them together and display them all within one report. And like I said, this is just one way we can do it. We do have some documentation on multiple data sources where we use things like primary keys to combine two tables together, and we can join tables. So entity account. Let's see. Double check that this is working. All right, awesome. It's working. Okay. So we should now have, if I open my database, a whole bunch of integrations here. So we can get a get all. And so this is just another decisions database that I have set up. I don't think there's anything on it really, aside from the few main accounts. But we can do a get all. And then we can do grab. It's been a while since I've done this. Is it create list that I'm looking for? Okay, so we have add item to list. Do we have a combine list step? It doesn't look like it. But at the very least, we can ignore that. Let's do for each element. Okay. So take a failed path there. We'll put our done path and we'll match that into our for each step. Do an add item to list. Once we're done, we can output our data there, which will be our full list of accounts. All right, so our collection is going to be our entity account result for each item. So we'll say say the new item. Set this to account first. So the new item will be our item, or it should be. Let's see. Any account result. Okay, this is interesting. This is fetching. So we may need to do a list mapping actually before we set this up. This maybe. Hopefully we don't. It's been a while since I've made this, so bear with me. Okay, that should be what we need, and I'll have to test that. It's a little more configuration than I was expecting. Okay, so new item should now be our item. We do original list is going to be, we're going to select from flow, and that's going to be our list of accounts that we defined. We defined this list at the get all. We're going to change the value here, and we're going to add the new item, and then we're going to change that value. So for each time, we're going to update this main list of accounts. Theoretically, that should be all we need. So once we're done, that should go there. So let's see what we have. A list of accounts. That's looking like we should have everything here. Yeah, that definitely looks like our expected count. Okay. So not the most beautiful flow in the world, but it looks like it works so far. So if we create a report now, we can then use our flow reports. Fetch accounts flow. And if we display, do account ID, we can do created by, created on date, and let's do email address. So we would expect, and there it is. Okay. So we've got our system account. This is coming from our actual local account. And then we've also combined that using the flow. So we're pulling the system account from the other environment as well. This is how it would work in theory. And obviously, working with something different from accounts could change a little bit. But this is one way that you can kind of go about it, is by using a flow. We can combine those two items into a list, and then we can just display the entire list rather than doing something like a table join, if that's something that's a little bit easier for you. So I hope that answers that question. I'm not sure who the submitter was, so I'm not sure if they're present today. All right, looks like we do have a hand raised.
Hello, I submitted that question, and
hello.
My question was actually, joining two data sources. One data source is from the database, and the other one is from the entities, which is basically a flow execution extension data structure. So I wanted to show all of them in one report and join them by, for example, one field in the database, for example, ID, and some ID from the data structure from the local entities. So will this solution also work in that regard?
This should, I would think in theory, obviously it would really matter up to what your setup is specifically, but I do think that this solution should work in most applications.
Okay. All right.
All right. So let's see. And then my third question looks like was wondering if there's a way to make user actions text bold for flow extension when you right click on them in a report. If there's more than one action option, I need to make the main one bold so the user sees it first. So after rereading that, I think I understand your question here. So we have a flow extension, and this should apply. Go ahead and save this. This should apply to just about anything. So I may go ahead and just create a database structure just to keep things easier, but then we can create a configuration folder. Do name, do age just to make something special, and that should be it. Give that a second to compile. My local is a little bloated by this point, so it can take a little bit at times. Okay, so it looks like we are all good. And one thing I forgot to add as well, enable actions. This should generate a configuration folder. And of course it has to recompile again. All right, so now we have our configuration folder. So we can create a user action. So I think let's create, let's see, it has been a while since I've done this. Do I have any existing? Let me catch myself up here. Okay, so we can go ahead and hit create here. This is going to create a flow. And the flow doesn't have to do anything. So we'll go ahead and save that. Set classification info. So I would think that it should be this display type right here. I believe, let's see. Oops, searching on the wrong one. Okay. So it looks like this should accomplish what we're looking for. It should be this display type right here. So to reiterate the question, just because I may have been a little unclear. So the question was, they were wondering if there's a way to make user actions that we have for flow extensions. And I'm, of course, in this case, using a database structure, but it should apply to just about every data structure we have. To make user action text bold for flow extensions when you right click on them in a report. So we have options to do that in a report. It's all based on the data type. So this should apply to that as well. But the display type right here, if we set it to primary, we should see that show up as a primary action. So I may have to throw in some data here to get a report. So I'll go ahead and create a report. And I probably should have looked at the name. Okay. Lunch and learn database structure. We'll display name, age, ID. Go ahead and save. So we don't have any data in there, so we're going to go ahead and just throw in some test data. This may take a second. Go ahead and create that. Item to create. So we will build this data. Don't need to define an ID. Set this 14 because it's my favorite number. I'm not actually 14 years old, I promise. All right, so we've created some test data. So that's all we should really need. So if we jump back into this report, we'll see our one line. And if we run this report, we have this in bold. So if we back out and we go back into our configuration folder on our user action flow, if we hit this set classification info, if we drop down to our display type, if we set this to secondary, let's see what this gives us. So we've now set that. We jump back into the report. It's now no longer bold. And I'm also curious, I don't actually know what none does. So let's see what happens if I set it to none. Run that report one more time. So it looks like it still shows up as not bold, but we can still see it there. Yeah, I'm interested to see. It doesn't look like our docs touch on what the none option does, but in terms of seeing, what items we want to see in bold versus what we don't want to see in bold, but we still want to see in that list, that's all done under the set classification info menu, which can be found under your configuration folder. So for my simple data structure, I had to create the configuration folder for that, but you can create it. For a lot of the more advanced data structures that we have, like flow execution extensions, case entities, those should come with a configuration folder by default, and you can do the same thing from there. So we'll create a user action, and then we can do the order. We can set the order, and then we can set like a category name. If you want to have it under a submenu, you can define a category name, and then the display type. We can have primary, which will have it in bold, and then secondary will have it not in bold. I hope that answers the question. I'm also not sure who submitted that either, and if they're present today. Not seeing anything in the chat. All right, it looks like we still have 3 currently in attendance. So if you guys have any questions, the floor is open. I'm happy to dig into any questions you have. And I'll leave it for a couple minutes, and if not, we can go ahead and wrap this up. Looks like Sean has a question.
Hi. I have a question regarding I have a problem in which I'm trying to, I guess, clear certain tasks uh, based on I guess certain conditions. So I guess to put it briefly, I have one file. So I first upload a file that has certain data on it. And then I upload, and then I basically assign the tasks based off that file, right? And then I upload another file, right, of the same kind with and if here I'm trying to explain it. Okay, say if I have a file that has a user X, user Y, and user Z, and it assigns me I guess tasks for X and Y, but not Z, right? and then I send out notifications so that way I get assigned those two tasks. And then I upload the second file. But the second file basically um, I guess marks X as like done and can be and all tasks pertaining to X can be killed, and then gives me Y and Z. How would I go about trying to kill the assigned task for X?
Okay,
So
so I'm going to try to repeat it back to you to make sure that I'm understanding. So we have the option, we're uploading files,
mhm,
and depending on the file, we're assigning it to, a couple of users, like user A and user C.
mhm.
And so if we upload another file, we're expecting the previous assignments to be wiped.
If they're marked, say the file marks them like they has a certain marker, right? Um, that says remove this person, and then that would cause I guess all tasks pertaining to that person to be removed or killed, however you I guess would want to put it. Deleted, perhaps.
Maybe, let's see. I've never set something like that up myself. So let me see what we have. So do we have any flow steps? Remove assignment for folder. See if I can stretch this out a little bit. Remove assignment for user. Identifier type. I wonder if this step might be something you would look into, something like a remove assignment. And I will totally preface this by saying I have never used these steps before, so
Mhm.
this is more of just a maybe test it and see what happens. And I should still have that assignment that I was using earlier set up. So I wonder if I can break that a little bit. I'm not quite sure what it's looking for though. So we have our assignment. We have our assignment ID. This is also looking for an identifier and an identifier type, which I'm not quite sure what that is. So I may not be able to. Yeah, I'll see what happens if I. Let's throw that in there. Set that to constant. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it's more than likely going to be looking for that identifier, which more than likely ties it to the user that it's assigned to.
Hmm.
See if we have anything in our docs for this. Yeah, and I think just based on like the specifics of your use case, this also might be something that's probably better set up just as a support ticket, just because I don't know, even if I do find like some things that could point us in the right direction, I think for like the specific use case that you have, it might be more efficient to just have somebody that's able to set up and look at your specific use case.
Okay.
But
I see. A
couple more things here. You can go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
oh no, not at all. I was just I'm just gonna say like yeah, I've been trying to hammer away at this issue, and I'm not quite too certain as to why um or as to how to I guess go about that. Um and so yeah, I was trying to like first see if I can solve it on my end before sending a support ticket, but I'm kind of at my wit's end. Um
Yeah, and I think too, like we store assignment data on a couple of tables within decisions too. So I wonder, there may be some ways that we could do that, just digging into the sequel and seeing if there's a way that we could just mark an assignment as deleted, given specific parameters. So say like we have a parent flow that's expecting like, file A is uploaded and it's assigned to a couple different users. Well, then as soon as file B is uploaded, we rerun that flow. And it can check some logic to where it says, okay, well, if we already have assignments out, check if we have assignments out already. If there are assignments out, then follow this path to, remove assignment or run a query or do something like that. I think that's how it works in my head, but like I said, probably more efficient to just have somebody hop on with you and we can take a look more in depth on that. But as of now, I don't see that not being possible.
Okay. And sorry to ask, but would that be something that you would like me to fix, or would you be able to make it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can throw in a support ticket for you. Happy to. I'll make
Thanks
sure
very
I
much.
write it down as well.
Thank you so much, sir.
Let me make sure. So this is. So submit a ticket for assignment, action lease time, and we have a room assignment support ticket. All right. Well, it looks like that about wraps it up. That's all I had. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. So I think with that, we're probably good to go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate you guys joining. This was actually one of the most eventful lunch and learns I've had in a while. So I'm glad I got to hop on and answer some questions, and hope you guys have an amazing afternoon. Take care, guys.